Well, today I'm on a 3-day mission. I'm going to start by heating up some extra virgin olive oil, and I'm going to add a chopped onion. Okay, we're gonna sweat that onion down a little bit. I'm not gonna brown it. I could, I suppose. Not going to. Just gonna get it softened up a little bit. Add some flavor to the oil. And I have some ground beef that I got a little while ago on sale. It's about about 1 pound, I think, which is too much for one meal for me, and so I could make it into a pie. That would be fine, and I could have the pie for several days. All good. But I've decided I want to do something different this time. I'm going to prepare a base dish of ground beef with onions and mushrooms, and then I'm going to convert it into 3 different dishes. Okay, so my onions are now sweated and a little bit of color, but not much. And I'm going to push them off to the side, and I'm going to add the beef. I'm going to turn up the heat again. Add the beef. I'm going to brown that off. Just hope there's not too much added water. And this is my starting point. This is where the chameleon cook has to have a thought. So let me just brown this off, mix in the onions, and then I will come back. Right, now that's browning off nicely. Now, as it happens, I've got quite a lot of mushrooms. They've been sitting in my refrigerator for some time, as it happens, and really need to get them eaten, so they're going to go in next. So here we have the mushrooms added to the basic beef and onion mix. I'm just going to also just heat them up a little bit, get everything all nicely sauteed together. The mushrooms are going to add a little bit of flavor and texture, and they're going to blend in really nicely. All right. Now, what you will undoubtedly realize, I live by myself, and that is enough for at least 3 meals if I add potatoes or some other starch such as rice or pasta. And I could, as I said at the outset, make it into a cottage pie, and I could eat that cottage pie for 3 days. Or I could be more of a chameleon, and I could say these basic ingredients can make 3 different dishes. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to divide these portions into 3, and I'm going to make 3 different dishes. First, I'm going to add a little bit of stock and moisten everything up, and I'll come back and show you the division into 3 parts. And my first dish is going to be a sauce for pasta. Alright, so here we've got everything simmering away quite merrily. I've got some stock added to moisten things up, and this is going to be the base of my 3 different dishes. I'm going to show you how to make the 3 individually from this basis. And this is particularly directed towards people who live alone and who don't want to be eating exactly the same food every day for 3 or 4 days in a row, which is what often happens because it's very hard to cook small amounts for one person for one meal. So, recipe 1 is going to be a pasta sauce. I'm going to make some linguine, and I'm going to make a tomato sauce. And so the first thing I need to do is to divide up the meat. This is 2/3 of the meat put away into the refrigerator. And now we take the 1/3 that's left in the pan, and I'm going to add to it some garlic and some chopped tomatoes. Now I'm going to just saute everything together. So here we have the beginning of the mixture, and I've added some mushrooms just to make it a little bit richer, and now some tomato puree, and we're going to boil all of that together with oregano and parsley. I'm going to simmer that all down to make a sauce. Going to let this simmer for about an hour. Meanwhile, I'm going to heat up some linguine, and now I'm just finishing off my pasta sauce, and then I'm going to drain the linguine and add them to the sauce, stir around, and we're ready to rock and roll. And as it happens, I had some pasta sauce left over. So at the end of day one, I've had a really good meal with linguine and a tomato sauce with meat and mushrooms, and I've got enough left over for another small meal with linguine if I want to. Now on to day two. So here we are on day two, and I've taken a good portion of the original beef mixture out to make a pie. And I've got my mashed potato just about ready, but I'm looking at the pie filling and thinking that I'm going to need to add a few more ingredients just to flesh it out a little bit. So I think I'm going to add a leek and probably a few more mushrooms. Let me just contemplate that for a minute. So yeah, I decided that a leek would work well, and if we go over here, you can see that I'm also going to add a few more flavorings, some Lea & Perrins Worcestershire sauce and some mushroom soy sauce just to enrich the gravy. I'm also going to thicken the gravy a little bit. You can see that it's very thin right now. I'm going to thicken it up and then make it into a pie and bake it. So here's the pie filling all bubbling away with the extra leeks, and I've also thickened the gravy up. It tastes really nice. Now I'm just going to make up the pie by mashing some potatoes, putting them on top, and then we'll bake. And I'm actually going to bake a guava and raspberry crumble alongside, just so that I have a really rich Sunday dinner. Now, I've cooked cottage pie for you before, so I put the pie in a dish. Here's the topping with potatoes and butter and leeks. Mash them down, then cover the filling, bake, and then this is what was left over. I ate a good amount and there was still a lot left, so I ended up freezing about half of the pie. So you can see that I started with about a pound of meat, and I made my linguine dish and then had some left over. And I made my cottage pie and I had some left over. So I've had 2 meals, and I've got 2 more meals. So I've got 4 meals already, and I still haven't finished the basic meat. I've got a third dish to make. Let's go on and make that. I'm going to make a curry with rice. Here we are then at day 3, and you can see here I've taken the final third of the meat mixture and I've added some dried chilies, some paprika, cumin, various other curry spices, and turmeric, and I'm putting them all together in my saute pan. I'm going to bring them to a simmer together with a little more broth than I originally had, because I'm going to let them simmer together for about an hour, and I want them to thicken naturally. I don't want them to thicken with flour or something like that. I want them to just reduce down, just slowly, slowly, slowly. And meanwhile, I have some rice boiling, and I have an egg in the water with the rice, and I've put turmeric in the rice so that it will turn yellow. And I've also chopped up a tomato, because I'm going to have a sort of festive rice, not a very elaborate pilaf, but festive enough, with yellow rice, tomatoes, and egg, then the curry on the side. And wouldn't you know it, I still had curry left over, and I had some rice left over, so I mixed them together in the saute pan. And that's day 3. So I now have 3 meals I've eaten and 3 meals I've still got to eat. That's 6 meals from 1 pound of beef plus some extra vegetables and rice and pasta. Just letting you know that if you live by yourself and maybe you have to be quarantined for 14 days and you've stocked up like I suggested in my last video, well, here's what you can do with very little, as long as you've got rice, pasta, potatoes, which are non-perishables, and meat in the freezer. The vegetables, of course, will stay. I don't know whether they'll stay in the refrigerator for a full 2 weeks, but you can make them into dishes like I did and then freeze them, and then they, of course, will last longer. Okay, that's me for the day. I'm going to ask you to like and subscribe, and then tune in on Friday when I'm going to continue talking about statistics, probability, and chance.